Hi, good people. We are here for part 3 of the series on conflict, confrontation, and conflict resolution. I do want to add up front a disclaimer about conflict resolution. If the person that you are having the conflict with is, in your opinion, in others' opinions, a toxic employee or a toxic supervisor who you feel like you are in danger from that person in any kind of way, emotional, physical, etc., um, do contact your human resources office at your organization. And the person in charge of those kinds of issues will most likely set in motion a mediation procedure. So do report that kind of information to human resources, and they will help manage the conflict because that is a part of their job. If this person is toxic and they are a part of your personal life, you have some decisions to make. Do you want to keep that person in your life? Number one. If that person is threatening to do harm to you, you need to contact your local law enforcement or domestic violence organization. So, if this is more of a normal conflict, confrontation, conflict resolution situation, then we can move through these steps that I have named in part 2 of this series. So, part 3 involves the meeting itself, the so-called confrontation itself. And so I'm going to go through the types of things that should be a part of that discussion or that meeting. And so we've already gone through what we're going to say and how we're going to start the meeting in part 2. Once we've done that, then it is your responsibility to provide your account of the incidents that occurred that have done you harm or that don't sit well with you or that are causing you some type of emotional duress. Explain how those actions made you feel. That is very important. Explain and describe these actions from your perspective and how you felt. Again, avoiding attacking the person's character, and making jumping to conclusions about how that person feels about you or how you feel about that person. This is about you and how their actions have impacted you, but lead with how you feel, how those actions, how that incident, how those series of incidents and actions have made you feel, and or how they've impacted your work life and or caused you harm, and how that has impacted the rest of the team. Because most likely you are a part of a team in your workplace. If this is a personal relationship, then it's about you and possibly other groups of people as well. But explain how all of that has impacted you and made you feel. At the end of explaining that, ask person's thoughts. Ask them, what do you think about all of that? Or, what are your thoughts? Or how do you feel about this? And this is key. This is the most important part of this discussion. Listen. Listen actively, empathetically, patiently to what that person will have to say, how they will respond. Listen. Do not listen to rebut, to argue, to refute. You have to pay attention. You may even want to write some of this stuff down that this person is saying so that you can go back to that when the discussion, when that person's response has ended. Do not interrupt. Do not interrupt to say, but, well, I disagree. Don't do that. Let the person completely finish their response. So you are listening actively. Make eye contact if you can. If you are so disturbed by the person's response, then just take your notes. And do not make eye contact, because you might incite further conflict because you're just boiling and brewing over their response. The person may be shocked that these things occurred, or that you and how you felt about them, and they may simply apologize. Be prepared for that apology. If the person apologizes and it is authentic to the best of your knowledge, because it'll probably shock you that they apologize in the first place. If it is a true, I'm sorry, I had no idea, accept that apology. And then I'll move on to what happens next. But let's go back to after you've listened to the person's response and their thoughts. The person may deny your claims altogether in an attempt to gaslight you, or in a knee-jerk, bad emotional response. If this happens, resist the urge to argue. Just listen. And once they're done talking, return to those specific occurrences. It may be, this may end in a stalemate. You may never resolve this conflict because that person has to take ownership of something. Either they can just claim that they had no idea and apologize, or they can recall these things and not realize that they were doing this to you. Or, still yet another possibility, they were doing it on purpose because there's something about you, something you said or did that caused this upheaval in them and caused this conflict in the first place. You have to be prepared to receive that too. And this may involve multiple discussions, or you may have a lot of time on your hands, both of you, and you can sit there for hours until this is resolved. And so then the person might, again, like I said, accept responsibility. If the person accepts responsibility, then you should be talking about next steps after that. Or the person may ask you, okay, where do we go from here? What's next? You have to be prepared for the what's next. The what next should involve those actions, those incidents not occurring again, and strategies that you both can devise to ensure that these things don't happen again. This whole discussion may end in hugs and tears, and you may have the best relationship ever after this conversation and this discussion, after you both confront the issue. You need to decide on terms that you both can deal with, terms that you both can accept, and again, be prepared that you may have a part in this. You may have some apologizing to do as well. Be prepared to apologize. It is likely that if you keep your cool, the person will keep his or her cool too. You have the ability to set the tone and the tenor of this conversation and to control what happens next. And so the whole goal, again, of confrontation is conflict resolution, resolving the conflict. And so this may take several of these conversations, but those are the basic steps. In essence, you have really got to be an adult here. There's no room for pettiness in this conversation. There's no room for pettiness in your note-taking that we talked about in part 2. And there's absolutely no room for pettiness if the person informs you that you had something to do with this conflict, that you were not the innocent victim, that maybe they were the injured party at first, and whatever incidents that you are recalling were them retaliating against you. Again, if this relationship is valuable enough for that person to still be in your life, and or if it's a work relationship and you guys can't get around each other, neither one of you are going anywhere, then the best course of action is that you all learn how to work well together as a team and get past this conflict. My name is Dr. Sonia McCoy-Wilson, and I am an executive coach. Please check out my link tree below, and I look forward to seeing you all and working with you in the future.